Echoes, the Pokemon of Wuthering Wave. They come in all different sizes, from our cute little Pikachu friend here all the way to our giant dragon that's so similar to Dragon Balls, making our Jouet friend here literally one of the best looking dragon in video games I've seen in quite a long time. And the Echo system that was introduced in Wuthering Wave just makes things quite creative compared to other games, because honestly this is one of the only few games I think have this kind of systems, other than, you know, Pokemon of course. And at this point in time, I think the ecosystem is being received quite well within the community. I personally really enjoy looking at different Echo's design, but moreover the ability that they have access to, because obviously the whole goal of creating different type of Echo is so that you have a different variety of usage across those type of Echoes. However, many of the time right now in most of the gameplay, we are only focusing on the, you know, Cost-4 Echoes, because obviously they are the best Echoes in the game. They do give you quite a lot of damage output, as well as, you know, buff specifically towards the element you are using towards the character. So yes, it is quite true that Cost-4 Echo being in the first lot in your Echo inventory is going to make the most sense. But currently we are quite newer to the game, therefore not all the Cost-4 Echoes are actually that good. You know, for example, the Inferno Rider as well as the Thundering Mephis, those type of Echoes just requires you to be on field casting their Echo's attack just for way too long, messing up your rotation just so badly that it is quite honestly annoying at times, especially, you know, our newest character Chang-Li, who's, you know, most of our favorites. Yeah, you're right, you guys love Chang-Li and want to invest the best into her, right? So the only good Echo Cost-4 right now that she has access to is still going to be the Inferno Rider. And considering Chang-Li is a character that, you know, utilizes quick swap situations so much, having her cutting out, you know, like a 2 to 3 seconds just to cast Inferno Rider for time is just actually not that good. So many of the time, even for me when playing Chang-Li, I just completely forget using Inferno Rider specifically, or, you know, the Thundering Mephis, right? I've got a very good Thundering Mephis on my Yinlin, but honestly I actually never used the guy, because requiring you to do 6 hit in order to get the electro damage bonus is actually quite not that worth it in the end. So if you're going to be putting in Cost-4 Echo just for the sake of it and then forgetting to use the Cost-4 Echo in battle durations, then yeah, you might as well not have the specific Echo in that slot in the first place, right? Which is why, as you've seen from the title, the whole goal of today's video is to, you know, look into some very good Cost-3 and Cost-1 Echoes that also have insanely high values that you guys may be missing out, because guys, we have quite a lot of Echoes in the game. Not all Cost-4 Echoes are great, therefore we also have the other Cost-3 and Cost-1 Echoes to actually look into their values. So first off, let's have a look into the Cost-3 Echoes. Right, now the first one we're mentioning is going to be the Salamander. It's not really that all special. You're just going to be, you know, casting it there, you know, call it out just like a Pokemon, and then it's going to be staying on the field doing a bit of damage for you. However, this is also one of the best Echo to put into the main slot for Chang-Li right now, because I mean, unless you're very good with rotation on Chang-Li's side, again, most of the time you can forget using the Inferno Rider. Therefore, you know, in terms of favoring quick switching for Chang-Li, many of the players have been favoring the Salamander, because you just one cast it, let it stay on the field doing whatever it needs to do, and Chang-Li just can continue with her rotation. And you know, the Salamander doesn't actually do as much damage as the Inferno Rider do, but overall, you know, more damage is going to be better than you not going to use the Inferno Rider in the first place, right? So overall, this Echo is for me basically recommending specifically for Chang-Li. Obviously there are other situations for other characters, like, you know, for example Yinlin. If you keep on not favoring to use the Thundering Mephis, you can actually try and go and look for other Cost-3 Echoes that you can just cast, quickly do some damage, and then just let Yinlin do her thing, right? Next interesting Cost-3 Echoes I say is going to be the Loomis skill, and some of these Echoes we're mentioning is going to be the parrying type Echoes. Now the good thing I would say about parrying type Echo is that, if you guys didn't realize, is that, well, many of you know that there are TOA and holograms in terms of final content for the games right now. However, beating TOA and holograms generally can have quite different specific strategy in terms of tackling those content, because while obviously unless you are a very good later, most of the time you're probably gonna have a bit of trouble with either TOA or holograms, right? So TOA is more kind of like a time limited battle mode where you are very much time restricted, whereas hologram is a little bit more easier on the timing side because technically you have like a 5 minute to clear out the content. Therefore, the survivability for the hologram bosses are going to be favoring more because these things just one-shot you the higher levels they get, right? So for TOA, many of the time favoring cost 4 echo for you to do more damage overall can be the way to go. However, for hologram, focusing on you surviving throughout the hologram boss battle can sometimes be a better and if more effective strategy, which is why taking into consideration echoes that have parrying mechanics is actually a pretty good consideration, especially if you are playing Wuthering Wave on mobile, where it's a lot harder compared to PC, and obviously not many of us are much of a master toward the game, so having parrying type echo is actually rather good, which is why, well, let's go back to the Lumi skill here. This is one of the better parrying echoes that I have seen to date, because this echo specifically have a very long durations of parrying timing for you, so it's very easy for you to cast a parrying for this echoes, and most of the time you do not get any damage when using parrying for this echo. So overall, a very good considerations for dealing with hologram bosses. Other interesting consideration we have are going to be, you know, the Violet Heron. This is also a very good echoes for you to parry. Not only that, it also refunds you concerto energies as well, so it's actually a pretty interesting echo for you to get into consideration. And other than that, we also have the Cyan Heron. Now this Heron is actually quite different from the Violet because it doesn't parry the same way as the Violet Heron, and I actually think that the parrying stance for this Cyan Heron is a little bit harder for you guys to use, but the more main usage of the Cyan Bird is going to be more in terms of, you know, gliding explorations and other stuff, because if you're into Yingxi or Changli's infinite flying mechanics, then yes, we've been using the Cyan Bird a lot in terms of either resetting their skill or helping you to travel a lot further distance, which is pretty interesting, right? Because you know, in the overworld we do travel a lot, so echoes that helps you with traveling, obviously the Inferno Rider has always been one of them, is actually going to be pretty interesting. Other than that, right, we obviously have the Light Crusher, the most recent echoes that was introduced in terms of traveling mechanics. Not a bad one for consideration if you do have it built as an echo in your character building set, so actually a pretty nice consideration. And then next, let's move on to the Cost-1 echoes, because we do have a few very interesting ones as well. Now the top one on this list is definitely going to be the X-Karat. Oh my god, is this echo actually the most OP one when it comes to you avoiding damage, because guys, literally this thing just hide underground and you're basically never going to get damage whenever you are in the X-Karat underground states. And more importantly, since this is a Cost-1 echo, this echo has the lowest cooldown of all echo, therefore you are going to be able to actually spam and have a lot of usage on the X-Karat if you do use it. Now unfortunately, obviously the X-Karat is only on an Ice and Havoc element, so technically speaking you can't really use it for other element, but if you are on any other character DPS build for Ice or Havoc, maybe you can have a look into the X-Karat sometimes if you are having trouble with perfect dodging some of the hologram bosses. Other than that, we have the Fusion Warrior, who's also kind of like a parrying type echo. Now this echo is also pretty good and sometimes can be better than the Cost-3 that we've just mentioned, because one thing, it also has pretty good parrying state, but moreover, whenever you successfully parry with the Fusion Warrior, it also has the cooldown decrease for the echo, making you much easier for you to spam this echo. So overall, a very good options for you to look into a parrying echo of that as well. Other than that, we have the Diamond Claw echo for parrying, you know, the scorpion looking guy. However, I think this is one of the worst echo for parrying because it's not really that good. You many times still take damage, and it basically does physical damage as well, which I don't think many of the characters are focusing on at this point in time, but it is still a worthwhile consideration because parrying type echo can sometimes find their values. Next up, we have the Whiff-Waff. Very much a different type of echo, but one of the type of echoes that I really like a lot because it has access to crowd control. Now crowd control in Wuthering Wave is still one of the rarest skills that we have, and I would love to have a much more dedicated 5-star character in the future who really have access to good crowd control, because yes, we are still dealing with a lot of TOA flaw or situation where there are a lot of enemies moving around on the field, especially when you are dealing with humanoid type enemies, right? You know, those kind of thieves enemy, for example, they just move around a little bit too much and a lot spread out. Now the Whiff Waff crowd control isn't really that good, however, it is still a pretty nice consideration for you to look into if you're more into the overworld and other stuff, because you know, it does help you with a bit of crowd control and that can be very nice. Other than that, we have the zigzag for a stagnation zone, which is very much similar to the ultra skill of our rover spectral, and that's pretty interesting because the stagnation zone just acts a little bit similar to how, you know, gang freeze enemy is. Obviously many of the time we're probably not going to see too much use of it, but I really do appreciate, you know, the different type of ability that these two echo has been having, you know, the Whiff Waff and the zigzag. Now these are only the two echoes mostly that have very different type of ability at this point in time, but it just goes to show that there are a lot more future potential for a different type of echo with a lot of different type of ability to look out forward to, which is the main reason why it makes the ecosystem in Wuthering Wave really interesting to see. So there are a lot of potential into this. So guys, those I would say are some of the better Cost-3 and Cost-1 echoes that you may have missed out because you were focusing too much on the Cost-4 echo. So hopefully through my recommendation, it kind of have already opened up to you a lot more different options whenever you are looking into echo usage, because obviously guys, it can be very fun. If you do have any questions or other lovely echo recommendation, feel free to leave it down in the comment sections and I would love to get to you guys there. If you are new to the channel guys, don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on my future Wuthering Wave videos. I really appreciate you guys staying with me to this part of the video guys, and with that I wish you a super day and I will catch you on my next video.